Hey guys, this is Infinity Counter and this is my second video. Today we'll be dealing with variables and how we can use them in our programs. Alright, so let's start off like I told you in the last video. We have to include our header file IOStream. Next thing is our entry point int main. Alright, now in this program we're going to simply print a number to the screen, but before that we're going to create a variable. Now a variable is a location in memory where data is stored, or should I say a value is stored. Now there are multiple data types in C++, but the three fundamental ones are int, float, and char. An integer value is a whole number, positive or negative. A float variable holds a real number, a decimal value. A char holds a character. So A, B, C, colon, full stop, all that goes in char. The number 3 would go in int, and 5.2 would go in float. Okay. For today, we'll be using int. Now, your variables can be named anything except they can be named long convoluted schemes of letters like A, B, C, D just for one integer, or it can be named underscore happy, but you cannot have a variable starting with a letter. I mean a number. You can't start a variable with a number. So this variable name, I do not believe this is accepted. So let's start. We're just going to name this variable x. Now what I just did was declare a variable. I told the compiler to find space in memory, call it x, and it's going to hold a real number. A actual whole number. That location in memory is called x. Now right now in that memory there's a garbage value, some random data that we don't need, so that if you were to use in the program it would give you some random values. So now the next thing we can do is now we're going to assign a value to x. So now x has the value of 6. However, instead of doing that, well, that's also an option. Alright, you see those two forward slashes I just did? This means I'm going to comment on my code. So these backslashes, the forward slash, I'm not sure it's which one. I'm commenting on my code. So this part of the code is not included in the program. The compiler will see it and won't do anything with it. So you could also write, you could have also written that int x equals 6. Now assigning a value to a variable is called initializing. Initializing is giving a value to a variable at the start of a program or anywhere in a program. The first time you give a variable a value is called initialization. Naming that variable is called declaration. So I have declared x and I initialized x to 6. Now we're going to print this stdc out, and if you remember last week, if you remember from the last video, that's a function from IOStream. So it's going to print whatever stream I insert into it onto the screen. So stdc out, the value of x is, now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, since x is a variable, we cannot put it in quotation marks, or else it's just going to print X. Now we want to print 6. In between my quotation marks here, you see the value of X is. Now the program knows that X is a variable, so when it comes upon X as it is right now, it's going to look for the value of X in this same line. So right now I have to close the quotations, comma X. This will let the program know what the value of X is, so that it can substitute it in what I just wrote. So just going to name this test. Alright, as you all remember, David Stupid Software have my system pause line. X has become a stream. It gets inserted into our statement here, and it's substituted for the value of X. So this line is going to read the value of X. Well, it's going to read the value of X. The value is 6. Alright, so now that we have the value of X is 6, we'll have to, we also saw the press any key to continue, we'll have to place it in a new line. So I have to stream in my new line escape character, and I'll move down to the system pause. Alright, now this is boring, so what we're going to do next is we're going to do some calculations with integers. So let's declare another integer, and int result. Now you see the way I just declared all these variables, that's quite unnecessary. Since I'm just declaring variables of the same type and not initializing them, after I declared one, I could have write comma and declare the other, and comma and declare this. So that's also another way you could have done that, but for now we'll just stick with this. Now that we've declared all these variables, we're going to also give y a value. So y equals 7, result equal 6. Okay, a little thing to note in C++, integer division or integer multiplication always yields an integer result. So if you divide 7 by 6, you'd expect to get a decimal value, but 6 into 7 gives you 1 plus a remainder. Now in C++, the remainder is truncated or just cut off. You'd only get the number 1, and the decimal value is not there. To do that, you'd have to do float division, or a conversion, which we'll do in later videos. And also float division or float multiplication, yields a float result. Float by integer yields a float. So let me run that again. Integer and integer gives an integer. Float and float gives a float. Float and integer gives a float. Alright, so now we're not going to stream X in, we want to print the result, so we're going to stream in the result. Oh, I'm sorry, it seems. Oh, I forgot a semicolon. See, you guys could have told me that, but you didn't. The result of the number is x plus y, number is 13. That's what we wanted. Now let's try and change one of these number. Let's try and do some division now. Let's try and divide y by x, or x by y. So we're gonna have y divided by x, and we're gonna see what we get. You see, we get a whole number of 1. That's because we divide an int by an int and we store it in an int. So the decimal numbers that came after 1 were truncated. So let's try that again. Let's try that. Let's try what we get by changing result to a float. Will it make a difference? Let's find out. See, it didn't make a difference. That's simply because even though we changed result to a float, x and y were still integers, so they yield an integer result. So let's also try and change y to a float. See, we got a decimal resultant number 1.16667. Yeah, that's a bad number. I'm gonna get that off screen. Anyway, this shows that, and it proves what I stated earlier, a float divided by an int yields you a float. A float by a float yields a float. A int by an int yields a int. Okay, so now that we've learned how to use floats and ints, the next thing we'll be doing is characters. But characters are done later down when we do loops. So for now, we'll just stick with our ints and floats. Alright, this is Infinity Counter second video. I'm signing off. As I said in last video, if you're interested in C#, I got a friend Skylight now's link at the end of the video. And yeah, I told you about the book Letter C. That's great. If you need any help, PM me on YouTube. You can PM me on my forum, join my forum where you can post relevant information. You can check out our latest tutorials. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much.